Introduction to Beluga Whales, Part 1. A beluga whale is a mammal, which means that they are warm-blooded vertebrate animals. Beluga whales' physical appearance consists of them being white, robust, stocky, with thick folds of blubber. Beluga whales are also small-toothed whales. So, where does a beluga whale's name come from? So, the term beluga comes from the English name beluga with a K, which translates to white. Their full name translates to white dolphin without fin. Beluga whales primarily live in areas with the Arctic Sea's ice, with about 2/3 of their population summering in Canadian waters. So beluga whales generally live in the Arctic Ocean. Beluga whales' diet consists of shrimp, clams, snails, sandworms, squid, octopus, crab, and a variety of fish, including salmon, eucalan, cod, smelt, and flatfish. Introduction to Beluga Whales, Part 2. Beluga whales are diurnal. They are more active during the day, and they like shallow waters with continuous sunlight. So how do beluga whales locate their prey? They locate their prey by using echolocation to find food, emitting sequences of impulsive sound signals known as clicks. Once a beluga whale receives an echo from its target prey, the beluga is able to interpret a distance to the prey and its location. So how does a beluga whale defend themselves? A beluga whale defends themselves mainly from whales, killer whales, sharks, and other predators through indirect means. Belugas, like all whales, have a fight-or-flight response to being attacked. When being hunted in the Arctic waters, they use the sea's ice to evade predators and provide barriers to protect themselves. While in the coastal regions, smaller belugas will flee to shallow waters while their predators, such as killer whales, cannot easily reach them. How do beluga whales reproduce? Beluga whales reproduce sexually. They seasonally produce from March through May. Males typically chase a female down using noises and ward all other males off who might attempt to mate with this female. Beluga whales' red list status. Beluga whales are considered endangered, as all species of beluga whales are protected under the Marine Mammal Protection Act and under the Endangered Species Act. The main reason for this is because of hunting. Other factors include alterations to their habitat, noise pollution, which is caused by ships. Beluga whales typically live 30 to 35 years. So do people use beluga whales for anything in particularly? The answer is yes. Beluga whales are used as meat, or mactac, which is the picture down below that I have right here. Mactac consists of the skin and outer layers of blubber of beluga whales. Also, beluga whales' bones are sometimes used for crafts.
Here we have the world distribution map of belugas. As you can see, they're mainly located around the Arctic Ocean, around parts of North America, and around parts of Asia. Here we have the biotic factors that beluga whales face in their environment, which include other belugas, fish, squid, birds, whales, seals, penguins, and krill. Here we have the abiotic factors that belugas face in their environment, which include wind, sunlight, water, icebergs, temperature, and rain.
Ecological relationships in beluga whales. Both beluga whales and polar bears are considered to be at the top of the food chain, except polar bears are able to hunt the beluga whale due to the Arctic ice. This is an example of predation. This means that only one of the two species preys on the other. When the bowhead whales migrate, they are often seen migrating with the beluga whales. Beluga and bowhead whales tend to travel in the same direction during migration. This relationship between the beluga and the bowhead shows a similar pattern between the two different whales. Traveling in these large groups, they have a symbiotic relationship where each of the whales benefit. In 2014, a group of researchers found that a parasite normally found in cats was discovered in Arctic beluga whales. Although the whales appear to be indifferent about the infection, nearly 10% of beluga whales are infected due to climate change as the ice has melted all over the Arctic, which liberates pathogens into the waters. The relationship between these two living systems is a mutualistic relationship, i.e. mutualism. In order for the parasite to continue to thrive, it must have a host, which is provided by the beluga whale after being infected. Beluga whales are able to function with virtually no symptoms.
So here we got like a food web, which is meant to show like how the beluga whale fits into the ecosystem and like what it eats and what it's eaten by. So, you have the killer whale and the polar bear, which are like the apex predators. And then on the food web, you also have like the Arctic seal, Arctic fish, krill, crab, zooplankton, seaweed, phytoplankton. And then you could split like the food web into like different food chains. So, one of the food chains can be like the killer whale, which eats the beluga whale. And then the beluga whale can eat the Arctic fish, and the Arctic fish can eat the krill, and the krill can eat the phytoplankton. And then like another food chain would be the polar bear eating the beluga whale, and then the beluga whale eating the crab, and the crab eating the seaweed. And then one more food chain would be like the killer whale eating the beluga whale, and then it eats the Arctic fish, but instead of the Arctic fish eating the krill, it eats the zooplankton, and the zooplankton eats the phytoplankton. And yeah.
Our enclosure is SeaWorld, which is located in San Antonio, Texas. Biotic factors found within the beluga enclosure are the belugas themselves. There are no other animals within their enclosures. The abiotic factors found within their enclosures are rocks, sand, water, and oxygen. For their feeding routines, the beluga whales are fed a variety of fish, including cod, herring, and salmon, as well as the occasional treat of squid and shrimp. The belugas are fed 2 to 3 times throughout the day, but any who are performing in shows or are a part of the in-person Swim with the Belugas experience are fed majority of their daily food-based amount while performing in the shows and encounters. The beluga whale has a parasitic relationship with copepods. These are often found in saltwater enclosures under the animal's skin. They are the most common type of holoplanktonic organisms in the entire world. While SeaWorld has promised to stop breeding their orca whales, they continue to breed their belugas. They transfer them from SeaWorld to SeaWorld for breeding. At San Antonio, their main producing female is named Luna and most recently gave birth in 2019. Belugas typically reproduce in the months of March and end in May, which is about 10 months after calving. Male beluga whales become sexually mature at about 8 to 9 years of age, and females at about 4 to 7 years. Belugas are pregnant for about 14 to 15 months and give birth to dark gray babies instead of their iconic white color. This is because it takes belugas up to 8 years to turn completely white, as it is a part of their maturing process. Food chains or food webs. Belugas feed by catching and chasing larger fish such as herrings or cod. While in captivity, babies are bottle-fed formula and adults are hand-fed frozen fish. Beluga death rates are higher in captivity than they are in the wild. While belugas live up to 60 years in the wild, in captivity they very often die before the age of 30, and sometimes much earlier, as the average life expectancy for beluga whales in captivity is 19 and a half years and can be as low as 15. Beluga whale's shorter lifespan, opposite to contrary belief, has nothing to do with interspecies fighting, as belugas are not aggressive at all and will do their best to get away from any type of attack. They avoid predation at all costs. Their cause of death usually relates to depression and loneliness. The overall conditions for the beluga whale at San Antonio SeaWorld in Texas aren't the best, but are better compared to other zoos that may contain the animal. They do their best to keep them in a relatively sized tank with water temperatures at around 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Sadly, the deepest enclosure they have is about 40 feet deep, which isn't nearly deep enough to give them safety from the harsh elements. The animals are either kept in the main enclosure, which is located in Beluga Bay, or are kept in smaller tanks where the in-water experience happens with the guests.
In conclusion, the beluga whales at SeaWorld are not being treated well as their enclosure is way too small for the amount of beluga whales that are in it.
Yeah, got it all covered, huh?
So our shows today are at 12:30, 2:15,